In tonight's Dateline Defense, understanding the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Deadly violence has once again become commonplace in the region as attacks on Israeli citizens continue to grow. Now the government is trying to find ways to protect them. For insight, we turn to our guest tonight on Capitol Insider, Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Shaffer. He's a CIA-trained senior intelligence operations officer, best-selling author, and senior fellow at the London Center for Policy Research.
Hey, Morris.
Tony, we've seen an increase in lone wolf attacks throughout Israel.
Right.
What's causing the new violence?
Two things. First off, you have, I hate to say it, ISIS behind the scenes trying to encourage as much mayhem as possible. This is a very simple and insidious attack, Morris. You can be walking down the street and be attacked. There's really no way to defend against it. So this is actually, by definition, a very effective form of terror. Secondly, I think you have the continuous simmering of the whole Palestinian-Israeli issue. This has not been resolved. It's not going to be resolved. So until people get serious about trying to figure out, should we go for a two-state solution or should we do something else? Right now, there's just no progress being made at all, and ISIS is leveraging the situation.
Now, this region has been the scene of many violent clashes between the two groups. Have the issues changed, Tony? What's at the heart of all this violence?
The heart continues to be essentially who owns the land? Who has the right to be in that region? And it goes back literally to the dawn of modern civilization. This is one of those issues that, Morris, we've talked about this. We can't go in there and resolve it. I'm not sure if there's any easy solution, but I'll say this. The fact that we continue to have two separate entities coexisting and violently attacking each other is not in the best interest of anybody. It allows for the Middle East to continue to be unstable. I'd like to see some solution akin to the Northern Ireland process where people actually come back together. Right now, there's just no hope.
Some leaders within the Israeli government have called for a complete lockdown of Jerusalem's Arab neighborhoods to cut down on the violence, but others say that could lead to even more attacks. Do you have any idea what's the solution here? Is there one?
No, there's not. I mean, again, locking down will create more conditions for more violence. I think, obviously, there has to be a negotiated settlement here. You cannot have continuous warfare in these societies. And frankly, this is where the Iranians are going to kick this up, too. One of the things that's going to come from the Iranian agreement, unfortunately, is you're going to have Hezbollah moving back in to cause more mayhem, to furnish rockets to Hamas, to the Palestinians, and I think we're going to see even more chaos over the next year. Frankly, there's just no hope at this point in time. I'm not saying it's hopeless. I'm saying within the current circumstance, we have to take a new approach. I honestly don't know what that approach is at this point in time.
Tony, let's move on to Syria.
Sure.
According to new reports, U.S. officials have told pilots not to react to Russian military planes flying in Syria. Russian jets have flown very close to American warplanes, prompting the Pentagon to issue the warning. Now, meanwhile, the two countries continue to discuss the situation in the region. What's your take on the directive? Are we being provoked?
We are. Look, I've talked to the Pentagon directly about this, and their answer is one I actually support the idea of, is like, we will continue to maintain the high ground. We will not be provoked. With that said, let's remember, Morris, the Russians are there because they've been asked to be there. As much as we'd like to go ahead and continue to act with impunity, it's not in the cards. We were the only ones in there fighting ISIS. We were doing airstrikes on a daily basis. That's not happening anymore because the Russians have muscled their way in. And again, as much as it's unpleasant for us to understand, the Russians are invited, we're not. So this is something the Pentagon is, as you point out, they're negotiating on a daily basis. I think there's a number of things that could be done to basically de-intensify the situation. But right now, the Russians are very much doing everything they can to basically be a bully. No doubt about that, but as long as we keep our cool, I think you will see a minimization of any potential bad outcomes. I'm not saying something bad won't happen. I'm saying we're doing everything we can to avoid it.
The Obama administration has maintained it does not want a proxy war with Putin, yet we have delivered 50 tons of ammunition to rebel groups in northern Syria. Is the U.S. sending mixed signals here?
Absolutely. The Pentagon's also talked about supporting the Kurds. We've been in meetings with the Kurds. We're having a meeting Monday with the Kurds on Capitol Hill. There is no clear forward path, and as you point out, the White House's policy is all over the map. And yes, Morris, I'm sorry, there is a proxy war now going. We're calling this essentially, we're seeing now we don't have the Warsaw Pact. We have essentially the Iranian, Syrian, Russian pact. And I think that's what we have to understand, is that as much as it is unpleasant to understand, we now have to work on what we would call an Arab NATO to counter it. We've talked about the Arab NATO several times right here on your show. So I think that's where we are reinforcing the idea we have to do an Arab NATO to counter the Russian, Iranian, Syrian influence.
This is a new topic we're going to discuss a lot more in the weeks and months to come. Right now, though, before you go, Tony,
Sure.
let's talk about one of your upcoming events.
Right.
At the Spy Museum. Next month, you'll take part in a discussion about some classic spy scenes from the movies.
That's right.
Give us a preview.
Well, we're going to be working with my friend Stacy London. Stacy will be reviewing a number of female Bond looks. I'll be doing the male version. And by the way, you can come as your favorite Bond villain. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you show up as there.
I'll think about that. Yeah.
But the idea is we want to make it fun, and it's a day before the premiere of Spectre, the movie. So it's the 5th of November at the International Spy Museum. It's going to be a blast. Stacy and I will be there to talk to folks, and I hope everyone will come down and join us.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Thanks.
Right.
Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Shaffer, Senior Fellow at the London Center for Policy Research. Good luck, Tony.
Thank you.